Hey, we're back with Connie the Badger, and I'm here to talk to Andrew Bishop. So Andrew, where might people know you from?
I was on season 14 of Naked and Afraid.
Oh, which episode?
It's episode 12, The Labyrinth. We were down in southern Colombia. It was a really beautiful place.
Have you been to Colombia before that?
That was my first time in Colombia, but I've been 4 times. I love it a lot. I recommend anybody who wants to go someplace beautiful, Colombia's a great choice.
So what made you apply for the show?
I would say, since I was a little kid, my lifelong dream was to run naked in the jungle with a bow and arrow. And so when I started seeing the show years ago, it was kind of instant. I wanted to do this, but didn't really know how, so...
Oh, so you were a fan before you were a survivalist?
Yep. Before I did my challenge, I'd watched every episode up to that point at least twice, so big time fan.
How did you get your start in survival stuff? How did you learn your skills?
Some of it I learned from my dad and from the normal being out in the woods, and then it was a big time hobby for years, read all the survival books, go out and practice it in your yard, and then I decided to get into a career that would help me learn some more of that stuff, and so now I work with indigenous people in South America and try to learn the stuff they know.
All right. So what do you think, what was something they didn't show in your episode that you wish would have made it on there?
Oh, I wish that people could see all the food that we had built. And I also really wish people could see all the conversations that my partner and I had late at night, just laughing and talking about, stuff we're into. My partner and I both really liked anime, so that was kind of a fun little...
So you guys got along pretty well?
Yeah. He doesn't necessarily come across in the episode, because we had, 3 or 4 days out there that were a little tense, and there's always a tendency to focus on that, but most of the time we got along really well.
What's your favorite part of survival? Do you like the hunting, fishing, shelter building, making fire? What's the thing you like the best?
I love all of it, but hunting is the biggest interest to me. I actually I study something called optimal foraging, which is it's looking at all the data and writing the models and stuff in order to figure out what animals, what plants in any given environment are actually worth pursuing and which ones aren't, and which ones make up the biggest portions of the diets for traditional people, and so that's always really fascinated me.
That's really cool. You were talking on the episode about the tribes that you were, learning from. Is that one of those ways you learned a lot of the knowledge you have?
Definitely. It helped me learn a lot about methods that work in the tropics, different kinds of plants and animals that are available in those environments. It gave me a lot of practice. And I think it also, the most useful thing was that it gave me an opportunity to actually experience using these skills, because it's one thing to practice in your backyard, it's another thing to go out and spend time in the wilderness and have to rely on this stuff, and it really shifts your priorities.
So it sounds like you have more of a passion for survival than being on TV, but TV definitely helps you get there.
That's true. Yeah, one of the problems, you can't wander off into the woods alone for 21 days, nobody knows where you are, and then you get bit by a rattlesnake or something, so it's also not always easy to get access to new environments, and so being able to go to these incredible locations and having permission to chop down a tree or to catch an animal in different countries is just, for me, it's all about the opportunity. I want to go back, and it's not because I want to be on TV, it's just because I want to go do some more adventures.
Would you do an XL if you were invited?
I would love to do an XL. I'd do a 40-day, I'd do a 60-day.
Would you do last one standing?
Yes, but it would be a different experience. I think if I went into Last One Standing, I would not treat it as a survival adventure. I would treat it as, a competition. And it kind of goes against what survival is all about, because survival is about cooperation, supporting each other, building teamwork, and Last One Standing is pretty much the opposite.
It's like a skills challenge.
Yeah, it's a skills challenge, and it's also a little bit of a social challenge. There's a little bit of mind games that go into it, and alliances, and
it looks very physically taxing too.
Yeah.
How did you get ready for your challenge?
Well, the number one thing I would recommend to anybody who's on their way out there is make sure you've got extra weight. I would recommend you have at least an extra pound for every day you're going to be out there.
Wow.
On top of that, for me, I stopped drinking any beer, alcohol. I cut out all caffeine for about a month beforehand to just make those first few days easier. And then I started doing intermittent fasting. So I wasn't eating until 5 p.m. every day. And the advantage of that is it keeps your blood sugar steady throughout the day, so you don't have those crashes and the mood swings that make people really suffer the first few days out there.
So being out there on these like adventures, often by yourself, what's the biggest change you've seen in yourself as a person, like from just pushing yourself to these limits, exploring and going new places?
There's definitely a big increase in confidence, like just knowing that what I'm capable of and how long I can go. And another thing is like, growing up, I was a big time preparer. I was all about planning and making sure you had all the gear and everything you need. Now I feel a lot more relaxed where I can kind of just trust myself and I don't really need much stuff. And for me, that's really been fun and opened a lot of opportunities because you can go a lot farther when you don't have as much stuff to carry. You know, life becomes a little bit easier. So you've learned sort of minimalist tendencies. Yes, absolutely. I think another one is how to stay relaxed and positive in stressful situations. You know, even last night, you know, we got trapped at this campground because there's trees down across the road, and we came up with right away. We had a plan. We had multiple plans. Yeah. Most of them involved me ending up in jail for some reason, and rather getting bailed out a few years later. So. But yeah, it shows that like ingenuity of people in groups to come together and work together. And I think that's one of the things of like when you're out there, there's a virtue to being alone, but there's also that beauty that comes with working with another person and collaborating. Absolutely. One of the things I was just thinking about last night when we had our issue was with this tree is, you know, I'm with a group of competent people and everybody here is a go-getter, and it's nice to have people around that you can like rely on and you don't really have to worry because, you know, as a group, we're going to figure it out. We're going to work together. No one person has to do it all. Exactly. And you got to say the name of the tribe because apparently it's a drinking game. But when you were with the tribe, you know, you were talking about the things you learned survival-wise, but what was the biggest culture shock when you started living there with them? The world is so different. Because which tribe is it? Everybody take a shot. I was with the Arcane tribe in Paraguay, and because they rely on each other daily for food, you know, one person cannot do it alone. If you're out there for months and months and months and you're by yourself, yeah, you might get an animal every 4 or 5 days and it may be huge, but you can't eat a huge animal by yourself, and there's going to be days where you're not successful. And one of the things that made them do is that they're really interdependent, and that sense of community, that sense of I can rely on everybody in my community, it makes their lives so happy. And so that surprised you when you were there, like how much everyone collaborated? How much they collaborated, it was really just how much it reduced your own stress to have everybody collaborate so well, to be able to rely on your partners. So the form of communism? It's small scale communism. At that level it works nicely. And like, what did they do with the children? Like, how were they like raising kids and stuff? The kids in the Aceh communities, it's really neat. They basically just rove around during the daytime. It's different in the forest because in the forest you've got a smaller group and you've got to stay close to camp because snakes and wild animals, jaguars. But when they're out in their reservation, the kids just rove around in these giant bands. And it's everyone, you know, you've got 2-year-olds playing with 5-year-olds playing with 10-year-olds, and they're all learning from one another. And it actually seems like it takes a lot of the load off the parents because you don't have to entertain your kid, and a lot of what they need to know they learn from copying older kids. So it was neat to see a system where you don't have to put as much direct input and you get such a nice result. And what did you learn there that you brought back with you into your life? I mean, there's all sorts of things. One of them is sharing. I mean, I was already pretty good at it, but that is a highest value for them. And I think that that was one thing I really implemented, like trying to be more generous, and not worrying about making sure I'm taken care of first and sharing out of excess. No, sharing what you have, even if it means you're going to have a little bit less because you know that other people are going to do the same for you. Right. And so one of the things that we do is we always occupy our time and our minds. You know, it's constant input of stuff. How do you deal with that quietness when you're not used to it? Well, honestly, they're not very quiet while they're out there. When you're hunting, you're doing stuff. Yeah. But the rest of the time, people are sitting around making fart jokes and telling stories over and over again. On your challenge, when like, you know, you had that like when your partner is like sleeping or you're not around and you have that like absolute stillness, or... I love that. That's an environment I thrive in. So I didn't find that a challenge. I really kind of found that as like one of the biggest benefits of being out there. To me, like spending time, being able to meditate, being able to pray, all that kind of stuff. It was just, not having the distractions gave me a level of focus that you don't normally get in day-to-day life.
Very cool. All right. Anything else you want people to know about you or think they should know about you that didn't come across?
I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I think everybody should give it a shot just once.
Yeah, I think you have a lot more, like in person, my experience is you have a lot of charisma and a lot of humor that didn't always come across. You came across more serious on the episode than like, you know, the funny kind of charismatic, a little bit goofy person that I've come to know.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I was sad they didn't show as much of like just me and Riza goofing off together, because that was, you know, like half our time out there is just sitting there around making jokes. Especially, you know, in the evenings, night is really long when you don't have light, you don't have anything, you can't do any work or anything. So having somebody to sit there and banter with was so nice. It made it a lot better as a challenge.
Do you think you could have made it alone though?
Yeah, definitely could have, definitely. But it would have been harder, I think. Like just the mental aspect of it, you know, like doing the work, no problem, but being alone for 21 days, it's easy to get in your head and have these repetitive thoughts and, you know, become negative and stuff. And so having another person to help keep you positive is really, really helpful.
Right. So I think the takeaway is anytime someone's like, who would you like to see go back? Remember this guy.
Yeah, send me back, please. I would love that.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for the interview. It was a pleasure.